Hi there. Today I thought I would do a bit of a first impressions video. I just got my first ever Devinah Cosmetics eyeshadows and I thought I would do some swatches, talk about the formula, the shades, maybe compare them a bit to some in my collection. I have 9 shades in total, 2 that I picked up as individuals and 1 bundle, that's the Carnival Sweets bundle. First up, I have the shade Fairy Fire, which has been on my wish list for a very long time. It's a really unique shade which has a yellow base and shifts from a green to a aqua, turquoise, blue, indigo, and purple. The formula on this one is definitely a more substantial formula. I wouldn't say it's like super emollient, but it's definitely more creamy and smooth than a lot of other formulas. While it is a pretty sparkly shade, it definitely isn't piecey or chunky in any way. It's a really nice substantial shade. The second single that I picked up is Thetis, and this one has a plum purple base with an orange, gold, green, turquoise shift. I absolutely love shades like this, so I'm pretty excited to have this one in my collection. This one definitely had a little bit more of a chunky, thicker texture to it, but it did smooth out quite nicely. And although it is quite vibrant, it does have a lot of beautiful sparkle to it as well. The first shade I have from the Carnival Sweets collection is Sour Spanx. This has a sheer warm tan base and a gold to green to turquoise to blue to indigo shift. The formula on this is quite different than the first two. It's much drier, much thinner, and much more sparkly. Next is Butter Pucker. This has a sheer yellowed brown base and a yellow to green to turquoise and blue shift. This has a similar finish and formula to the last shade. It's quite dry and quite thin and very sparkly. The next shade in this collection is Bubble Fizz. This has a sheer cream base and a turquoise to blue to indigo to violet shift. The formula and finish on this one are a bit different than the previous two in this collection. Although it is very thin, it's a little bit less dry and much less sparkly. The next shade is Sweet Slush. This one has a sheer tan base and shifts from a pink to a peach, orange, and gold. This is similar to the first two shades in that it has that thin, dry, super sparkly formula, but I do think this one is more impactful than the first two were. The next shade is Sprinkle Whips. This has a sheer lavender base and shifts from a purple to a violet, magenta, and pink. Similar to the other shades in this collection, it has a thin, dry consistency and a sparkly finish. This next shade is Rain Tarts. This has a sheer gray-blue base and shifts from a blue to an indigo to a purple, violet, and pink. The formula is consistent with the other shades in this collection with the exception of Bubble Fizz. And the last shade I have is Twinkle Toots. This has a sheer mint base and shifts from a mint to a turquoise, blue, indigo, and purple. This shade is similar to Sweet Slush in that it has the same formula as the rest, but it is more high impact. So while swatching out the Carnival Sweets collection, I realized that it's a pretty spot-on dupe for the Shine by SD Reserve collection. I've swatched out here the Carnival Sweets on top and the Shine by SD on the bottom. And as you can see, these are pretty spot-on dupes, which is really disappointing because, I didn't need them. I didn't need to dupe this collection. There's a couple of shades that I do really, really enjoy, but there's also a couple that I never use. And it's also a bit of an extra kick for me because the Exploders collection, which I believe this is actually like a continuation of, I was debating picking that one up, but I realized while looking at it that I thought it might have duped the Primavera Crystals collection, which happens to be my favorite collection from Shine by SD. And although I'm happy I found that because that collection is being discontinued, at least for the more colorful shades, it doesn't dupe the iridescence. I didn't need to dupe the entire collection. I could have just picked the specific shades that I liked, and I didn't want to get dupes. I wanted to get, unique shades to my collection. So I am pretty disappointed in myself for not looking a little bit more into the shadows and looking at what their possible dupes might have been, especially because I have actually heard people compare Sour Spanx to Reserve 2. So I really should have looked more into it, and I am really disappointed in myself for that. So after all that, I was a little bit nervous that Thetis was going to wind up being a dupe for something as well, particularly these two shades from Shine by SD that I've recently gotten, Ascension and Line of Queens. But thankfully, you can see here, they are all different. I do absolutely love this kind of shadow, so I'm really glad that I have something unique here and not a dupe, because I do really enjoy this kind of shadow. And thankfully with Fairy Fire, I have nothing like this shadow. I knew it was going to be unique. I did look in my collection to see if I had anything similar, and I just really don't. It really is just such a vibrant, unique shadow. So I'm really glad I got that one. I'm really glad I got Thetis. And in the future, I do want to get more from Devinah, but I'm definitely going to stick just with picking singles, not going through the collections. With the exceptions of the Moonscapes collection, I really want to pick that whole collection up because it is really unique. But otherwise, I think, going to just pick specific shades that I don't think I have in my collection.